My name's Joe. Every morning I clean Sydney Road and some of the surrounding streets. I often work with our crew, who are a great bunch. They're hard working but also up for a laugh, and part of what makes me get out of bed each day. It's really quiet first thing, but there's always a lot to clean. Sometimes it's a bit of a mess and there's rubbish scattered around. I clean the footpath, the street furniture, the bins and remove graffiti off public buildings. I like it. It keeps me busy. It feels pretty satisfying to know that at the end of each day I've made Sydney Road look a little better for everyone who lives, works and visits here. Cleaner streets make it a nicer place to shop too, and that helps our local traders. And as everyone starts their day and the shop's open, I get to meet some lovely community members and their dogs. Everyone knows Sydney Road is legendary. We should all show it some love.
Libraries are the heart of our community. They connect us, inspire us, and support lifelong learning.
Whether it's borrowing books, thank you,
learning how to use computers,
getting creative in our makerspaces,
or simply having a welcoming space to belong, the library is the place to be.
We're always evolving our spaces, collections and services to meet the diverse needs of our wonderful community.
I love my library. It's a safe place to be, it's inclusive. I always find something new that interests me. It's not just a place for books anymore.
A library has something for people of all ages.
And is a place of discovery, events and learning at every stage of life.
It's your library. Visit us today.
Did you know that Merri-bek is home to a diverse community where more than 95 languages are spoken? That's why we offer information on council services in your language. If you received a rates notice that you don't understand, would like to request a new bin, or have another question for council, we can help. We have free in-person and phone interpreters who can help you communicate with staff at council in your language. To request an interpreter, simply call 92401111 and ask one of our customer service staff to organize one for you. You can also request an interpreter at one of our customer service centers, libraries, or maternal and child health centers. At Merri-bek, we're proud of our diverse community and we want to make sure everyone can access our services. For more information about our language services, please visit our website.
Wheel Sisters came about after some women in Fawkner approached us, wanting to learn to ride bikes and also find other women from their own community to ride with, including women who might ride in hijab or an abaya. One of the things that never gets old when you teach people to ride bikes is the sheer thrill they get when they realise they can do it.
The really special thing about teaching both the women in Fawkner and the women here is just the cultural barriers that they face every day, and coming from a place where they never thought they'd ever be able to ride a bike. A lot of them do reflect that it's been their lifelong dream to ride a bike, but they never thought they'd be able to do it. So it's just that extra level of being able to gift that to somebody.
Good evening, councillors, members of the gallery and to our viewers live streaming tonight's meeting. My name is Councillor Nadabood and I am the Mayor of Merri-bek City Council and the chairperson for tonight's meeting for planning and related matters. It's my pleasure to welcome you to tonight's meeting. We are meeting on the lands of the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people. We wish to acknowledge them as the traditional custodians of these lands and waterways, and would also like to pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, as well as to all First Nations communities who significantly contribute to the life of this city. This council meeting is being recorded and web streamed live to council's website and YouTube. This recording will also be available as video on demand, and attendees are advised they will be recorded during the meeting. A reminder that as councillors, we will act in accordance with the Councillor Code of Conduct, which will support the principles of leadership and good governance that secures public confidence in the office of councillor. In the event of an emergency or disruption, we may be required to take action to ensure the safety of attendees. For members of the gallery and councillors attending in person, please follow the directions issued by council staff and security officers. Thank you for your understanding and cooperation. I'd like to introduce the other councillors in attendance tonight. Joining us online, the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Dr. Jay Iwasaki.
Hi everyone.
Councillor Sue Bolton. Councillor Liz Irvin.
Good evening, everyone.
Councillor Chris Miles.
Evening.
Councillor Helen Politis.
Good evening, everyone.
To my left, Councillor Adam Pulford.
Hi everyone.
Councillor Alice Svensson.
We're merged into one now.
All the Adams.
Hello, everyone.
Councillor Katarine Theodosis.
Hi, everyone.
And Councillor Oscar Yildiz. And Councillor Helen Davidson is online.
Good evening.
I'd like to also introduce Phil Priest, the Group Manager of City Development, and members of the Urban Planning team. There are no apologies, so I'll move to disclosure of conflicts of interest. Councillors, are there any conflicts of interest to declare? No. So I'll now move on to confirmations of the minutes of the previous meeting. Councillors, could I have a motion for the confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting for planning and related matters held on December 17, 2025? Councillor Irvin, and to second, Councillor Miles. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. Before we move to the reports for consideration, I'll outline how this council meeting for planning and related matters will run this evening. For the item in relation to a planning permit application, 1, the relevant planner will introduce the report and officer's recommendations. 2, I will then give objectors and supporters the opportunity to make their submission. And 3, after this time, the applicant will be given the opportunity to speak. If you are making a submission, please clearly state your name for the record. You are requested to present viewpoints clearly and concisely on why you oppose or support the planning application. Please do not repeat what earlier speakers have said and keep the discussion focused on relevant issues and points not previously raised. If you are opposed to the planning application, would you please inform the meeting why you are opposed and suggest an alternative approach which would satisfy your concerns. Please use this opportunity to focus on your concerns rather than matters of detail in the officer's report. Please also note that there is a limit of 3 minutes to each speaker and the permit applicant, but as chairperson, I reserve the right to increase or reduce the time available to any speaker. I'll now move to the presentation of the reports, and we have 2 reports this evening, and the first is Report 5.1, 194 Glenroy Road, Glenroy, Planning Application MPS 2025-554. Can I just ask again if any councillor has a conflict of interest to disclose? Thank you. And I'll now move to Ryan Hay to ask you to, our planning coordinator, Ryan Hay, to present the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors, and good evening to the gallery. This application is for 194 Glenroy Road, Glenroy, and it's seeking the approval for use and development of the land as a convenience restaurant and to construct and display business identification signs, as well as internally illuminated signs and promotion signs. An application for review has been lodged with the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal, so they will be responsible for a decision going forward. Tonight, Council will be resolving its position for the application for review with VCAT. Looking to the site and surrounds, this site is located to the east of Pascoe Vale Road at the corner of Glenroy Road and Blenheim Street. It's in a surrounding area of predominantly commercial buildings with residential context to the east, and the site is currently vacant. The land is within a commercial 2 zone. It's subject to a special building overlay which oversees flooding impacts, and it's subject to a parking overlay Schedule 1. To the east of the site is a residential zone with the RSL also located within the residential zone to the east. To the south and west is a commercial 1 zone, and Glenroy Road is a council road. The strategic policy setting for this site is one of significant growth. The site is included within the Glenroy Activity Centre, an area that is seeking significant change. The site is also in an employment priority area. The proposal is for the use of the land as a convenience restaurant, being Hungry Jack's. The operating hours would be between 6 a.m. to 1 a.m. the following day, 7 days a week. There is a seating capacity of 40 patrons within the building. The building itself is a single-storey building, 7 metres in height, with this floor area of 245 square metres. It includes a drive-through, car parking and bicycle facilities. Car parking spaces total 13, while the bicycle parking spaces total 6. And the business identification signs, as well as promotion signs and internally illuminated signs, are spread over the building. And then there is a 9-metre high pylon sign, which is located at the front of the site on Glenroy Road. The public consultation period for this application received 188 objections to the application. The main issues that were raised in those objections included traffic congestion and car parking, pedestrian and cyclist safety, noise and disturbance to the surrounds, as well as litter impacts. There was a planning and information discussion meeting held on the 28th of November 2025, attended by objectors and councillors as well as planning officers, and there was some changes put forward by the applicant in an attempt to resolve those objector concerns in the meeting as well as afterwards, but ultimately didn't influence the recommendation that's put forward today. So looking to the key considerations, they are aligned with those concerns raised by objectors, being traffic and pedestrian as well as cyclist safety. There are concerns with the building setbacks that are proposed, as well as the response to the existing and preferred built form character along Glenroy Road and within the activity centre. We have concerns with the signage that are also proposed, as well as the off-site amenity impacts, which include noise, litter, antisocial behaviour and odour. So the officer recommendation is that Council's submission to VCAT be that no planning permit should be issued for the application, based on grounds concerned with traffic and safety due to the drive-through and multiple crossovers that have been created along Glenroy Road, which impact pedestrian and cyclists, have conflicts as well as congestion with roads. The built form and urban design response being the single-storey and car-dominant design, failing to provide an active street frontage to Glenroy Road with the building setback, and that would be something that we'd be seeking within an activity centre. The signage, we believe, is excessive and fails to respond to the character of the area, and the off-site amenity impacts would impact on nearby sensitive land uses and hasn't been appropriately mitigated as part of the application. The policy and strategic conflict is quite evident with this application, given it's not meeting strategic directions and state planning objectives within the Merri-bek planning scheme. These being the reasons that the officer recommendation is that no planning permit should be granted. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, so there are 2 objectors who've indicated that they'd like to speak. Jessie McNellis on behalf of the Merri-bek Bicycle Users Group, in person, if you'd like to come in. Oh, good timing. Just through that door on your left.
Hello, Jessie McNeilis Coburg, Secretary of the Merri-bek Bicycle User Group. The Merri-bek Bicycle User Group is an incorporated community group with over 800 members in Merri-bek. We object to the proposed development at this site due to its traffic impacts, including traffic safety. The location is on a council road, is adjacent to a shared path, which provides one of the only east-west riding routes for people on bikes that is not shared with traffic in Glenroy. This route for pedestrians and riders connects multiple primary schools, scout halls, Glenroy College, Glenroy Private, as well as a local church, neighbourhood house, and facilities to the activity centre, station, and other destinations. The Merri-bek Council planned to develop this route and increase its reach, making it more useful to more people, and it will connect to the planned Craigieburn cycling link. The existing driveway crossovers that this development proposes to use have been disused for more than a decade, and their use as a takeaway food drive-through would add an entirely new hazard to the shared path. The proposed development will generate significant traffic, particularly as it offers a drive-through takeaway food. This generated traffic will cross the shared path, and vehicles waiting to exit the development will prop over the shared path. This will be exacerbated by the traffic congestion in the area, since drivers will wait to exit. This not only poses safety concerns, but it also blocks the shared path for people on foot or bicycle. Clause 18.011S of the Merri-bek planning scheme states that the plan land use and development to protect existing transport infrastructure from encroachment or detriment that would impact on the current or future function of the asset, protect transport infrastructure that is in delivery from encroachment or detriment that would impact on the construction or future function of the asset, protect planned transport infrastructure from encroachment or detriment that would impact deliverability of future operation, protect identified potential transport infrastructure from being precluded by land use and development. This development will impact detrimentally on the shared path and will have a detrimental impact on the future Streets for People project on Glenroy Road and its role as a connector route to the Craigieburn shared path. The traffic generated will also exacerbate traffic congestion in the activity centre and delay buses that travel along that section of Glenroy Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Jesse. We'd also like to hear from Nicholas Zull, who I believe is in person.
The Mayor and Councillors, my name is Nicholas Zull. I live in Glenroy. I wish to voice my support for the officer recommendation that 5.1 of the council for council to reject the planning application. As a Glenroy resident and a bicycle user, the development will negatively impact my ride every other day from my house to Glenroy train station and back by making the rides less safe by reintroducing the use of two vehicle crossovers that, as Jesse just said, haven't been used for a number of years, and the associated increased vehicle traffic in the area, which also makes the roads and crossings close to the proposed site less safe. That relates to that provision that Jesse had mentioned, 18.011S. The continuation of the bicycle paths as well from Glenroy College to West Street, Hadfield, is a high priority project which was passed by Council in the Streets for People plan in just September last year. The proposed use of this site would reduce the effectiveness of that corridor in linking Glenroy Station, which is part of the principal public transport network, to the West Street Hadfield Activity Centre, which is against another provision, 18.022S, which is to facilitate safer, low-stress journeys by pedestrians and bicycle users. Though not directly the responsibility of the applicant, nor council for that matter, though still important to take into consideration when deciding whether this proposal should be rejected, is the adverse effect this will have on public transport. On average, buses in Glenroy run every half hour on a weekday and every 40 minutes on a weekend at best. The proposed use of this site would negatively impact every single one of these already limited services, as the 513, 534, 536 and 951 all travel along that stretch of Glenroy Road, and will be delayed by vehicles turning into or out of the proposed business, which, unlike other businesses, uses vehicles as the clear main method of accessing their commerce. This would contravene a separate Victorian planning provision, 18.02(3)(s), which protects the public transport network, particularly at interchanges, activity centres, and where principal public transport network routes intersect, which is applicable in this case. Personally, I don't think that Council should approve this application without these provisions being addressed. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Nicholas. At the moment, I have no supporters who have indicated that they'd like to speak, but I'd like to just check, are there any other people in attendance in the gallery who'd like to address Council on this application? Okay. So there's no permit applicant or a representative of the permit applicant to make a submission. So, councillors, could I please have a motion? Councillor Miles and Councillor Bolton to second. Councillor Miles?
Yeah, just I'd like to thank the council officers for all the work that they've done with this. I know there's been a lot back and forth going on, and also we had so many people at the PID meeting we had, where we have the community come and meet with the applicant, and a lot of discussions. There was 30, 40 people there who, you know, really spoke about the issues this is going to cause. This is just a net loss for Glenroy. This is just not going to work in that area. And a lot of people said to me, I don't have a problem with Hungry Jack's in Glenroy, but they have a problem with Hungry Jack's in that specific location. So I definitely will be supporting the officer's recommendation.
Yeah, so just to clarify that Councillor Miles is putting the officer recommendation as written, and Councillor Bolton, you're seconding. Would you like to speak?
I definitely would like to speak. I'm very familiar with this particular site, and while I understand some residents are, really annoyed the fact that this site has sat vacant for so long, I definitely think this is the wrong sort of project to have on this particular site. I think the grounds for refusal that the council officers have put forward are very strong, especially around the impact on the shared user path, because it is a major route to get to various schools and so forth, as well. And also, I think, in addition to the person from Merri-bek Bicycle Users Group who mentioned the fact that cars exiting Hungry Jack's, get all the various fast food joints all mixed up because they're all very similar, that they, cars would prop across the bike path and pedestrian path to wait to get onto Glenroy Road. But also the other thing is, because the area, that road is in that location is very congested at certain times of the day, it also can lead to cars quickly trying to nip between other cars to get into the Hungry Jack's and potentially hitting someone cycling along that path. So I think it is quite dangerous, and it is also because of the nature of what is just across the railway line with the access to Coles and Pascoe Road. Everything is in close proximity, and so that's what makes the traffic so bad in that particular area. And at night time at 1 a.m. in the morning, I think it's pretty outrageous they want to go till 1 a.m. because it's the visibility for shift workers coming home from public transport will not be that great. And then I think there are other impacts beyond the grounds of refusal that council officers have put forward, such as the litter. If VCAT dares to consider overturning a council refusal, that is, if councillors do refuse this permit, it will be residents who will have to police the litter. It won't be the council. I mean, residents will be able to complain to council, but I live actually not that far away from this. I'm not adjacent to it, but the litter from all the fast food joints is massive, and it's because it's all based on throwaway containers. So it's it'll be residents who'll have to police that. It won't be there won't be a council officer around the corner, to police the litter. And every time there's a new Hungry Jack's manager, residents will have to train them about what's in the permit about collecting, doing litter patrols and so forth. I mean, those are just two of the issues, and maybe the litter's not as serious an issue as the impact on the shared user path, but it's very annoying for residents, and of course the impact on the shared user path is very, very dangerous.
Thank you, Councillor Bolton. Are there any councillors who would like to speak against the motion? No. Are other councillors who'd like to speak in support of the motion? Councillor Pulford.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to speak in support of the officer recommendation tonight. I think with 188 objections from the community lodged against this application, it's clear that there's no appetite amongst local residents for a Hungry Jack's at this site. As the occasional user or customer of Hungry Jack's, I can't support a Hungry Jack's at this site either. Residents have raised concerns around noise, around litter, around smell, and around traffic, and Council's report really focuses on the impacts of the increased traffic and the two vehicle crossovers that's in this proposal, as well as the lack of the design kind of activating that part of the street, which you'd expect in an activity centre. Instead, it's kind of a big car park, as well as signage. Now, I think this is partly influenced by Council's experience in opposing the Bunnings in Brunswick near Pitt Street. In that case, Council really fought hard to protect Lygon Street as a route for active transport, and VCAT decided based on that case saying, yes, it is an important transport route, and therefore having a Bunnings at that site, which would create a lot of traffic, is not appropriate. So I think the same holds here for this site. It is important, the shared user path there along Glenroy Road links in and out of the Glenroy Activity Centre and to public transport, including Glenroy train station. And having two vehicle crossovers there would just have add too many extra points of conflict for people walking and riding along the shared path. It doesn't also align with our Streets for People plan, as residents have spoken about tonight, and it is also against certain state government policies as well. So I hope that in the case put forward by officers here tonight, I think there are some strong points that VCAT will consider, and I hope that that VCAT does respect Council's decision if Council votes to reject it as officers have recommended. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Pulford. Are there other councillors who'd like to speak? Councillor Irvin.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is an important site in the Glenroy Activity Centre, and while Council certainly would like to see something going on here to support the activity centre, it really needs to be a land use and a building that does align with our planning scheme and our overall aspirations for the area. I think if you sort of close your eyes and imagine a classic American arterial road with shops, the first thing you might imagine is all of these car parks at the front of the building. And if you're walking along that street, you have to cross these car parks to actually access the shop or the restaurant. And this is a really kind of unfortunate public realm and built form outcome that we are seeing over the last few decades. This is being undone, and there are certainly better practices now where you'd have the shop or restaurant at the front of the site, directly on the street. It means that people can access it from the footpath, and the car parking is located out the back, which then reduces the kind of visual dominance of car parking. It is unfortunate to see this site sort of uphold that older style of having the car park directly on the street and the drive-through sort of access from Glenroy Road as well. And it's not really what we want to see in the activity centre. We want to see active frontages that really activate that space for pedestrians, make it a more pleasant environment to walk and ride and, to sort of hang out and socialise as well. And it would be great to see a development in this site that aligns with this best practice. The other area of concern for me is the location of a inherently car-dependent use, a drive-through, on a street with a shared path and a bus route. As Councillor Pulford mentioned, Glenroy Road is also designated as one of our streets for people, so we plan for it to be safer and more attractive for people walking and riding, accessing public transport and enjoying the public realm. And a drive-through is just not compatible with these aspirations, so I do support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Svensson.
I'm really, really pleased to see the officer's recommendation being a refusal in this case. I think increasingly it's really felt like our community is being cut out of a lot of decision making, and particularly when it comes to planning, and councillors are being cut out of a lot of that decision making too. I think our officers always try and do an excellent job of getting the best possible outcome that they can, but under those constraints, I think a lot of the time we're really limited on what we can push for without it then just ending up with a pricey legal battle at VCAT that costs a lot of ratepayer money. So I'm really, really glad that that isn't the case here. We've actually got a lot of really good legal arguments that we can refuse this application on, which give us a good case at VCAT. We can push really hard. And I think that refusing this application, it's not just about good urban planning and following the planning scheme, but I think it's also a lot about listening to the community. And a lot of the time we don't get to do that in the way that we'd like to in planning because unfortunately it's not set up to do that. There's a lot of the time that we can't take certain concerns into account. So I'm really pleased that that isn't the case here. I mean, as people have said before, this application had close to 200 objections, which is by far the most objections I've seen in my term in council, and I believe the most that there's been in recent history on a single application. So I think it's the community said loud and clear that they don't want the Hungry Jacks in this particular location. You've heard all of the reasons why. We know that the Hungry Jacks have already applied to VCAT to try and bypass the council process. So I really hope that VCAT makes a decision that stands with the community. And I am hopeful because I know that they've done it before. VCAT stood with the community when it came to rejecting the Bunnings down in Brunswick for very similar traffic impact reasons. So I'm really hopeful that we'll get a similar win here as well.
Thank you, Councillor Svensson. Are there other councillors who would like to speak? No. I'll put that to the vote then. All those in favour of the council recommendation? Against? Declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. So I'll now ask the officer to outline the next steps.
The Council has resolved to advise the Victorian Civil and Administrative Tribunal that Council does not support the application at 194 Glenroy Road, Glenroy, subject to the grounds contained within the recommendation. Noting that VCAT will be making the final decision on the application, the matter is scheduled for a hearing at VCAT on the 3rd of June of this year. Objectors who have lodged a statement of grounds with VCAT will have the opportunity to address the tribunal directly at the hearing.
Thank you, Ryan. So the next item we have this evening is report number 2.5, 31 to 37 Stewart Street and 12 to 20 Harding Street and 20 Harding Street in Brunswick in Victoria. Amended planning permit application MPS 2015, as in 2015, 269G. And just to clarify, it's a complex property and that's why the name is so long, but we're having a look at it again. So are there any councillors to disclose a conflict of interest? Nope. I'll ask Ariadne to please present the report.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, councillors and the gallery. This planning application relates to the site at 31 to 37 Stewart Street and 12 to 22 Hardy Street in Brunswick. It is for an amendment to an existing permit to amend the development plans to increase the total number of dwellings from 58 to 59 by altering the layout of the retained building on Hardy Street. The site is an existing two-storey brick building belonging to a wider townhouse development. The site is on the corner of Hardy Street with a roughly 19-metre frontage to the street. The entire development spans 31 to 37 Stewart Street and 12 to 22 Hardy Street and is comprised of 56 completed townhouses of 2 to 3 stories. The current proposal at 22 Hardy Street is the final part of the development yet to be completed. The site is in a neighbourhood residential zone and within an established residential area. The original planning permit was issued by VCAT in 2017 for the construction of 58 dwellings. Since the issuing of the planning permit, there have been several amendments to the permit and plans. Construction of development, except for the subject site, has been completed and the buildings occupied in 2021. The retained brick building, subject of this amendment, has a current approval for 2 dwellings. The top image on the screen shows the current approval, which allows for conversion of the existing 2-storey brick building into 2 dwellings. The bottom image is the proposed amendment, which seeks to increase the number of dwellings from 2 to 3. The amendment also includes increasing on-site car parking from 4 to 6 spaces. Crossovers increased from 1 double-width crossover to 3 single-width, and a modified external appearance. The amendment application was advertised to the public through signs displayed on the building and letters sent to surrounding properties. 20 objections were received and a range of concerns were raised, including car parking and traffic impacts, building height, roof decks, and overlooking. A planning information and discussion meeting was held on the 30th of September 2025, and following the meeting, changes were put forward by the applicant to resolve objector concerns as part of an amended application, including increasing the setbacks of the rooftop terrace to 1.5 metres and reducing the perimeter screen height from 2.3 metres to 1.2 metres to reduce visual bulk at the upper level, reducing the total rooftop deck area from 145 square metres to 111, and proposing a lighter colour tone for the rooftop screen cladding and upper level structures. Now for the key considerations of the proposal. Starting with car parking, 6 car spaces have been provided on site, which complies with the planning scheme requirements. In terms of building height, the proposed maximum building height of 11.76 metres is permitted and consistent with the existing approval. Regarding vehicle access, on balance, the overall impact on the streetscape and on-street parking is deemed acceptable, whereby there are very few crossovers. Crossovers affect only 8.8% of the 102-metre Hardy Street frontage of the overall development site, and on-street parking retention remains unchanged from the existing approval. In terms of overlooking, screening is provided to the relevant windows and private open space areas within 9 metres of affected properties, with conditions requiring detailed screen diagrams to confirm compliance. And finally, regarding roof decks, the roof decks provide additional private open space without unreasonable impacts on neighbouring amenity, and amended conditions will require that there will be no roof decks anywhere within the approved development except for the 3 dwellings at 22 Hardy Street. It is therefore recommended that a notice of decision to grant an amended planning permit is issued, subject to key conditions including detailed diagrams showing balcony and window screens to demonstrate compliance with overlooking standards, and amended permit conditions so that there will be no roof decks anywhere within the approved development except for the 3 dwellings at 22 Hardy Street. Thank you.
Thank you. We have 2 objectors who have indicated that they'd like to speak, and they're both online.
I think you're off, but I don't think you can find that.
Sorry, thank you. We have 2 objectors who have indicated that they'd like to speak, who are both online. And I see Matthew Powell is already available there, so go for it, Matthew.
Oh, thanks very much, guys. Ari has probably set the scene, I'd suggest. And some of the stuff I'm going to mention now, you might have previously heard before, or at least read as part of my objection. But the point that I guess I just really want to reinforce is this issue of the rooftop terraces, which I note are now sort of deemed to be entertainment spaces. I note that they have been reduced somewhat in this third go of the proposal, but to my mind, they're still excessive. I note that they're somewhat around 110 square metres, which I think both subjectively and objectively can be argued that they are large spaces. And what goes along, I think, with those large spaces is the negative impacts that can be derived from those in the form of lots of people, noise pollution, etc. That's significant, I guess, in the context of where the Stage 3 development is located, and that is it's in the centre of the north-south axis of the existing Flock Mill development. It's also somewhat at the intersection of Hardy Street, which is an L-shaped street. So that centrality of the development means that the impacts are more likely to be widespread, both within the immediate Flock Mill development, but also within the Hardy Street local area. I think I'd also argue that one thing that hasn't really been argued by way of the developers' position, to my satisfaction at least, is that the development of the roof, or sorry, the proposal to have these rooftop spaces. I've been on my roof and I've looked far and wide, and there is no rooftop entertainment areas in any, on any of the dwellings within the region bounded by Albion Street, Blythe Street, Sydney Road and Lygon Street. So at the risk of being too much of a doomsday, my other concern is that a development like that that goes ahead will establish a precedent, and I just think that's sort of going to run counter to I think the residential code, which notes that amenity is and all the things that sort of hang off that are going to be negatively impacted. So at the risk of I guess of maybe sort of beating the drum too hard, the one point I don't think I made in my previous objection was that since this development has been proposed, the state government have now identified the Brunswick to Moreland train corridor, uphill train corridor, as an activity centre, and consequent with that is going to be the higher development types of architectural form that, to my mind, are going to include things like large rooftop entertainment spaces. And in that sense, I feel that it's that part of Brunswick that will contain and literally contain and those sorts of architectural elements that are more suitable to those sort of areas, as distinct from the areas around here, which largely are small and human scale, 1 and 2 floor local developments, single and double frontages. I just think that those large rooftop spaces really do run counter to the local built environment in this immediate area. So look, I think I do note though, just as part of the wind up, that at some time in the past, the large part of the original objections related to rooftop spaces. Subsequently, they were removed from the original plans, and upon appeal, VCAT upheld that there should be no rooftop spaces. Now, subsequent, I note that there was a concession in a subsequent proposal to agree to smaller 24 square metre rooftop spaces for each of the originally 2 proposed dwellings. Now, I think it's noting that that has been agreed in the past. It's a fallback position to allow those 24 square metre rooftop terraces to go ahead for each of the three proposed dwellings. I just think that is more in keeping with the scale and more in concert with the notion of the built environment around here, which, as I said, there are no rooftop terraces. People just have small balconies and
Thanks, Matthew.
that meet an aesthetic. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. I think I'll just get you to wrap up now.
Yeah, sure. Look, I think I've meant to Yeah, of course.
We get it.
I mean, as I say, a lot of that I think made into my written objection if the Planning Council are going to make reference to that as well.
Thank you so much. We're also waiting to hear from Michael Ford, who is online as well. Thanks, Michael. Whenever you're ready.
Yeah, well, thanks for letting us speak tonight. I guess the main thing that we wanted to bring up at the meeting was that we're not opposed to the going to the three from two residents. That's not the problem. I guess the thing that we want to ensure is that whatever happens is that the stage 3 of the development that we've all purchased into actually matches in with the development and is consistent with all the other dwellings within the area as well. So I guess one of the biggest points of concern for us is the rooftop terraces that have gone in that are extremely large. We understand that there's been conversations that we've been part of to try and reduce some of the effects of those. But I guess what is there will still be seen from the driveway from approaching up. They're sitting right at the end of the entry. So as you view into this property. So for us, I guess it's disappointing that these have been added. This is something that was slipped through after we'd purchased, and none of the people that had purchased off the plan were ever notified that the developer had made these changes to add the rooftop terraces to the stage 3 development. So for us, I guess that's one thing that we're not overly pleased with going in, and we don't think that actually matches the character of the development or the area. Other things through the conversation that was had and objections that we've put in is through the detailing that is going in is incongruent with the rest of the development in the area. So stage 3 will sit completely separate to everything else that is here that we need to look onto. Same thing with the additional penetrations and viewing that have been added to the southern side of the building as well. So these are 2 windows that will view directly down the driveway to the main entry. So be looking down. And again, this detailing sits completely separate to, the really strong design work and detail that is through the rest of the development. So one of the new penetrations that has been proposed has basically bars or fins across the window as well. So, this is something that on arrival for everyone that comes to Flockmill will be looking directly onto. So we just find it, I think it's trying to head in the right direction, but these things have not been, our objections we don't feel have been met to what we would like to see changed for this development to proceed forward. So hopefully council can take some of these things on and ensure that the development or the stage 3 of the development that we're in actually matches the rest of the area. That would be fantastic. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. We have no supporters of the application who've indicated that they'd like to speak. Are there other people in attendance in the gallery who would like to address council on this application? Yep, come on in. Hello.
Sorry, we did register to speak in support of the application. My name's Fatima Canseco, speaking on behalf, town planner from Urbis, speaking on behalf of the client and the application.
I will get to you in a minute. I just, at this stage, I'm just hearing about, rather than you as the permit applicant, I'm hearing from just people in the community who'd like to. Yeah, so if you just want to hold tight for a sec. And I believe, Nick, you wanted to make a comment? Sorry about that. Hello, Nick.
Dolby, Brunswick. I lived 4 years. I lived at Stewart Street, 2 doors away from this development. I lived in Mountfield Street where I could see this building that we're talking about from my front yard. I then lived another 16 years within 300 metres of this location. I know it well. I support the application, and in particular, I support the roof decks. We live in a hot Mediterranean climate. Pitched roofs are not appropriate. Flat roofs make more sense. Flat roofs that can be used as a quiet place to hang out your washing or to read a book, just as I did on the balcony at, 41 Stewart Street, I think it was, first floor balcony. Do any of these other dwellings in this complex have balconies which could be used as drunken party places? This is what we're being told, that these roof spaces will be used for drunken parties. No, they're an outdoor space in a dwelling. They will be used for a variety of uses, all of which are legal. If there's a drunken party going on, call the police. It's a noise thing, and so on. But there's no reason to say, oh, they're going to be used as an entertainment area and therefore that is completely inappropriate. I think it's actually very appropriate that they are used as an outdoor area, an additional outdoor area in these buildings. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. I'll just check one more time. Are there any other people in the gallery who would like to address council on this application? In that case, I can ask Fatima if you'd like to approach the lectern now and speak on behalf of the applicant. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have a proposal here to include one additional dwelling within the existing council-endorsed building envelope, bringing the total number of townhouses to 3. It's part of a larger estate of 56 dwellings, and it's a very unique building in itself because it's a standalone building with its own character, brick-oriented, and it abuts internal roads, as well as the main road at the front of the site, and also a communal area of private open space. Now, I think it's important to note that there have been no change to the overall building height as previously endorsed. There was previously rooftop decks, which are now being modified. And the crossovers in the car parking obviously had to be modified in order to facilitate 3 dwellings for the building. We have received 20 objections. The majority of the objectors are within the estate itself. We did we spoke to the objectors on 2 occasions, one of which was the council PID meeting. The other one was a meeting between ourselves and the objectors to try and understand what their concerns were. As a result of both of those meetings, we made changes to the plans. So some of those changes included an increased setback to the roof deck at the rear of the property, which fronts onto the communal private open space. And that setback's in the range is 1.5 meters. We've introduced some planter boxes to soften the rooftop edges, so there was a less representation of a perceived bulk. We also introduced another element which would help transparency with glass balustrades, which also would help to try and reduce some of that perceived element of bulk. And the rooftop perimeter screening has been reduced from 1.7 to 1.2. The private open space being, as we've heard, at the rooftop, a bit of a concern for some of the objectors, so we've reduced that area in total of 34 square meters. So the total area of private open space is now 111, being mindful that there was always an approved rooftop balcony at the rooftop of the building. The color of that upper section is now lighter, so that it's a lighter color tone, hopefully integrating and not presenting as bulky, and general detailing to the plans which confirm that there's no overlooking or modifications, and also modifications to the 3 dwellings to improve their own internal amenity. We support council planner's recommendation, and we take no issue with most of the recommended conditions of permit. We believe that the architectural design that was prepared by CKA adequately protects the amenity of the objectors and concerns in terms of shadow, overlooking, noise, and lighting. And it also contributes to the Flock Mill estate character. This building is unique, and we are reducing the amount of modifications that are for this building, while still also making sure that the Flock Mill character is
I'll
protected.
just have to ask you to wrap up.
Okay.
Thank you.
We ask that Council reconsider and delete referencing to EV charging infrastructure at condition 10C, Roman numeral 1 and 9, and 10C, Roman numeral 6. We have had a discussion with our...
Sorry, Fatima, just that you're a minute over time, I need to ask you to finish up, please.
Okay, so we just ask that those conditions relating to EV infrastructure be deleted, and we think that that will still be meeting the SDA requirements with a pass in terms of their best score.
Thanks so much. Councillors, are there any questions, or could I please have a motion? Councillor Irvin?
Yes, I'll move the officer's recommendation.
Yep, and a seconder, please. Councillor Miles? Councillor Irvin, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Mayor. So as we've heard, this is an application to amend a previously approved planning application. And the main changes proposed are to have 3 dwellings instead of 2, changes to the number and layout of the vehicle crossovers, and changes to the location of balconies. I did attend the planning information discussion meeting where residents had the chance to raise concerns with the proposed changes. And I'm really pleased to see that the vast majority of these concerns have been addressed through conditions on this application. And that came about, through really good discussions between officers and objectors and the applicant as well. So these conditions include increased setbacks, decreasing the amount of rooftop space, and improved measures to reduce overlooking, and changes to those screening materials. And there are a few outstanding concerns that I believe are out of our control to address, and we've heard that the rooftop decks are a big part of that. Unfortunately, there is a previous decision by council to allow these rooftop decks, which makes it hard to undo in the decision before us tonight. I guess what I will say is just because you have a rooftop deck doesn't mean you're allowed to disrupt your neighbours and throw all-night parties. There are laws, local laws and owners' corporation rules that protect the amenity of neighbours and nearby residents from this kind of behaviour. So after speaking with residents and the planning manager, I'm satisfied that remaining concerns can be addressed through other measures and don't require further conditions. And I'm happy to continue working with residents to address these or any other issues that arise. So yes, thank you, officers, for working with the applicant and objectors to achieve this outcome. And I know that residents are excited to see the final piece of the Flock Mill site be completed. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irvin. Councillor Miles, no. Are there any councillors who'd like to speak against the motion? And other councillors who'd like to speak in support? Okay, so I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? I declare that carried. So I'll ask Ari if you would please outline the next steps, and apologise for mispronouncing your name, if I did.
Following the issue of the notice of decision to grant an amended permit, both the applicant and all objector parties will receive a copy of the notice of decision to grant an amended planning permit. Objectors will have 28 days to appeal council's decision at VCAT. In the event that no appeal is lodged at VCAT, a planning permit will be issued. If a permit is issued, the applicant has 60 days from date of issue of the notice of decision to appeal any conditions on the permit.
Thanks, Ari. Councillors, we've come to the end of the meeting, so I'd like to thank those watching on live streaming for your interest in council matters and wish you all a good night and say good evening to the residents in the gallery who've attended this evening, and declare the council meeting closed to the public at 7:25.